Now it's time to welcome our guest, our esteemed guest to the stage, Mr. Gavin John.
Photojournalist, war correspondent.
Gavin John!
Oh, it's a song.
Yeah.
Cool. Can I start out by doing my own, If Hindsight Were 2020?
Yeah.
Okay, if hindsight were 2020, and I knew there was jokes about finger banging and thumbing chicks, I wouldn't have sat next to my mom. So thanks, Chris, wherever you are. You made that real uncomfortable. Let's talk about ISIS.
About ISIS now.
Yeah, that's comfortable.
It's a transition.
Good segue there.
I'm afraid to say this now.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm just kidding. So you were in North Korea last, you just got back from Iraq this time around. I wanted to ask you if maybe you should just try autoerotic asphyxiation as a far more pleasurable way to, you know, kill yourself. You're crazy!
Who said that's not why I went to Iraq for? I like to double down.
Can you tell us about your trip to Iraq?
Yeah, I guess I'll...
I doubt that anyone else in this audience has ever been...
Just to make sure, we don't want to make overgeneralizations. Has anyone else been to Iraq? No? Okay, good.
I was born there.
Awesome.
Frankie was Frankie.
Thanks, Frankie. Yeah, so I was there in May. I went with a colleague of mine, Crystal Schick, who was a photographer for the Calgary Herald. So the two of us went to Iraq in May. We were there for 10 days, and we basically, right off the get-go, so day one, we just basically went down the front lines from Mosul all the way down to Kirkuk in central Iraq, and was with the Kurdish forces, so the Peshmerga, so the Kurds, the Iraqi Kurds, they have their own army called the Peshmerga, and those are the people we spend most of our time with, so yeah, good times.
You were in central Iraq.
Yeah, well, northern and central, so we, the northern part of Iraq is the Kurdish area, so it's called Iraqi Kurdistan. It's a semi-autonomous region, so they got their own shit together.
Yeah.
And then central Iraq and Kirkuk is now a disputed city between the Kurds and the Iraqi government because of the war. The Kurds have now taken that city.
Yeah, so there's like 5 different factions.
Yeah, so that's for if you look at the whole kind of situation right now with Iraq and Syria, that's 5 is a gross understatement. We're looking at like 7, 8 different factions there, and all of them. Yeah, that's me. Yeah. So he's that good-looking guy. Pretty good Tinder profile pic, don't you think?
Yeah.
Hey, ladies.
They put the press right on you there.
Yeah.
Seems like a bit of a, like, is that a target on your...
Yeah. Yeah, the chest thing was Velcro, so there was a couple times where they did tell us to take it off, especially when we're on the front lines, close to ISIS, but the helmet was painted on, so kind of screwed there. Yeah, so it's, you know, you're trying to be as safe as possible, but if you're getting shot, like, they're not being like,
Right.
Yeah, like it's ISIS. Like we're all very aware of how they treat journalists. So it's
journalists that's a death warrant, right? Like as far as ISIS is concerned.
Pretty much.
Yeah. You can't like do a last minute conversion to.
No. There's no like just kidding. You got me.
Yeah.
The work bar. You know, you can't do that, unfortunately, with the Islamic State. So, but it's you like I said, you kind of go into these places with like an understanding of acceptable risk. So, I think a Velcro thing on my chest was the least of my worries. So, yeah.
The Kurdish people treated you absolutely. Like you fell in love with them.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. Hey, Freddie.
Hey, Freddie.
You been to Iraq? Talking about Iraq.
Julian, get out of here.
I liked your vacuum. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the Kurds were really good to us. They're quite when it comes to picking sides of the conflict right now. That's a Kurd right there. Yeah.
These are all photos you took?
Yeah, these are my photos. So this was on our third day on the front lines. They're actually shooting at ISIS guys.
Wow.
So it's luckily, if there's any wood, We didn't get any incoming fire, but outgoing fire is still equally as it's
Shocking.
Woods here,
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks, man. Yeah, so it was quite an eye-opening experience. Something that I'm quite passionate about. And,
Did you have an interpreter with you there?
Yeah, so you hire a guy who's called a fixer, and these guys are the unsung heroes of journalism. I can't do my job without these guys, and they're Iraqis and Syrians, and they're the ones, they live there, and they're your translators, your drivers, your basically the guys that go around with you, and
They're not part of the fighting. They're
well, no, they're not. Well, the guy we hired on our second day, just because it's ISIS, he kind of wanted a little security, so we would ask him like, hey, you got like a guy who maybe can shoot stuff for me too?
Yeah.
And he did, obviously, because it's Iraq. So he had his buddy come, when the Peshmerga come join us, but he himself, he's more of a journalist. He works with journalists, and he was there to translate and kind of get us through checkpoints. And at one point in time, he, like, this guy keeps you alive. He's basically your, and one kind of funny story with him, we were driving on down to Kirkuk, and he stopped the car on this highway, and he goes, oh, get your vests on. We're like, all right, so we get our vests on. And he's like, I was like, why? And he goes, you see that hill over there? He's like, yeah. He's like, ISIS. He's like, you see that hill over there? I was like, yeah. He's like, also ISIS. We're gonna drive really fast. I'm like, oh, cool. Let's go. All right, cool. So like, it's, you know, stuff like that, that you're in situations that you might seem so innocuously, you know, harmless, but then you point out like these, like they're hills.
But you're in like a good car, right? Like a Humvee?
It's like a Prius. Like a Prius or a, I don't know. 1996 Honda Civic, I don't know what it was, but yeah.
Not exactly bulletproof.
No, not exactly, no. So.
What are some of your like most poignant memories, I guess, from the?
Well, I guess the two of that really kind of stay with me is this may seem really kind of simple, but it was the first time actually physically seeing the Islamic State. So first time in the front lines, and they tell you like, oh, don't look over the sandbags for too long, and you know, kind of peeking up, looking through binoculars, and you see the flag, and then you look closer and you see the fighters, and you see their guns pointing the other direction, and it makes it very real. And I think for me, you know, this is my passion. But up until that point, it was all just you know, yeah, they're there, but for actually seeing it with my own eyes, it really kind of stuck with me. Like, holy shit, that's the Islamic State right there.
Difference from sitting in.
Absolutely.
Here.
And it kind of made it real. And it wasn't, not like it wasn't real before, but it really kind of, wow. And I guess the second one that really meant a lot to me was, one of the pieces we worked on was, we did story on Western volunteers, so Canadians and Americans who, next picture, maybe? I don't know what's it. Jay? Okay, next picture. Wrong occasion. Road. No. These are next picture. It's this one.
You're asleep at the switch.
Yeah, there we go. So we did a piece on Western fighters fighting with the Kurds against ISIS. So these are men and women who have left the United States and Canada to come over and help fight ISIS. So these guys are quite driven to, like, they go there, they sell everything. And these guys are young. Like, there was this one kid, he was 19, and we're doing our interview, and we're like, okay, you know, just, you know, well, this will be hopefully up within the week. And he goes, oh, I haven't told my mom yet. I'm like, Taylor, come here. Tell your mom tonight. I don't want her to find out because of my news story. But these are kids, literal kids, that are going over. And
how do your parents that are here tonight, how do they react when you told them that?
Well, what do you think, Mom?
I'm just glad you're not a stand-up comic.
Ladies and gentlemen, Heather John.
Roasted! There it is.
Great parents. She wanted me to mention her today because, yeah, my mom. But yeah, so they're really supportive, and just like any parents, they're hopefully proud of what I do. And yeah, so did I give you that picture? That's not in Iraq at all.
No, I put it just a slide.
Oh, okay, perfect. But yeah, so the guy behind, before this picture, his name is John Gallagher, and he's actually from Calgary. And we met some Canadians there, and there's another guy from Calgary, and got to really really kind of hit it off with this guy, really awesome guy, really driven, and like really ideologically driven to be part of the solution. And when I came back, he went to Syria and joined the Syrian Kurds in just outside of a city called Hasaka. And on November 4th, he was killed by ISIS. So for me, it was my first time getting to really know and care about someone and losing them through the war. So it really kind of, that really sticks with me. And if anything, it lights my fire to be like, we need to talk about it as a society, that this is something that every one of us should care about, because men and women, not only like John, and I don't think we should care just because the Canadians died, but Iraqis and Syrians are dying while we sit on our hands. And for me to lose someone that I got to know quite well, it kind of was this, okay, this is really important to us, and it's the reason why I'll go back, and it's the reason why
The other side of the coin, like you went to school with the guy that went to join ISIS?
Yeah, so in my state graduating class, not in my program, but in my state graduating class, there was a guy who joined ISIS, and ISIS is already here, and that's the thing we have to really realize, is that they're here. And when I talk to people about kind of what we need to do, is that we should be afraid of ISIS, absolutely. But we shouldn't be terrorized by them, and we shouldn't be intimidated by them. That it's something that we need to address, and we need to make a realization that Calgary has the highest ISIS recruitment rate in all of Canada, in every Canadian city, and that's a real fact. So we can't brush off this, and refugees aren't going to cause more ISIS attacks. They're already here. So it's this realizing of these facts that we need to have conversations about kind of what we need to do to fix the problem.
What is it about Calgary that's makes such a hotbed?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. I
guess, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's when you look at ethnic groups and how extremism is bred. There's examples in Europe, especially how in Paris and London, where multiculturalism can fail absolutely. When you take a minority group who already feels not a part of society, and you put them in their own little area and be like, that's your area, this is our area. If you're going to be asking for extremism, absolutely, and that's a fact. So how Calgary plays into that, like I don't know. Like are we I think we are quite a multicultural city. But the problem is that
accused that mosque.
Right, and I think the thing we need to realize too is that there's ideologies we have to call out for being bad ideologies. Like and at the same breath as while doing that, we need to make sure that we're not lumping in everybody, and specifically when it comes to Muslims. And it's such a complex situation where I think Salafist Islam is a very, very bad ideology, and that's the ideology of Islam. And Islamism, so political Islam, Sharia law, all bad ideas. But we as a society, at the same time of calling out saying, hey, maybe that's not a good idea, that women don't have rights and gays get thrown off buildings. But at the same time, we need to look at, how can we make these societies part of ours? And we need to make sure that we're doing it in a way that isn't divisive. We need to make sure we're allowing people to understand that, you're free to practice whatever religion, up until a point at which where it affects the lives of the people in your society. So these are really tough questions, and especially kind of coming back from a country that's reeling from sectarian violence for the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They know it more than any of us, and they've been trying to combat the exact same issues that we're starting to learn that's now in Canada. So it's quite being over there, you see the result of rampant sectarian divisions between Sunnis and Shias. At the same time, we have to realize that the best fighters against ISIS currently right now are also Muslims. They're Sunnis and Shias, and it's such a complex, solution. And it's, you've got seven sides, and you've got all these nations trying to figure out what the best solution is, and of course it's a complete
What's gonna happen?
Well, tomorrow, for all you foreign policy nerds, I don't know if there's anyone here. Tomorrow is a really big day. Big day with the war, because it's the Geneva III Convention. So, which means that all the nations currently involved in the war are meeting for the third time in Geneva to talk about solutions. It's going to fail. Can absolutely tell you that right now.
They just debate and never...
Well, it's debating, and you've got people like Turkey, which Turkey's a bag of dicks. And yeah, they are. They're not allowing, because they hate the Kurds, which Turkey is part of NATO, but Kurds are our allies, but Turkey is actively killing the Kurds. So they're not allowing the political group that represents the Kurds into these Geneva talks. And the Kurds are the only ones that are winning militaristically against ISIS. So it's who picks and chooses, takes part in these talks. And as of right now, Syria and Russia are winning. And that's a problem, because we need to look at end games here. And this is why it concerns me, because everyone is so focused on ISIS. And ISIS is a problem, but has anyone here heard of like Ara al-Sham or Jabhat al-Nusra? These are...
Gavin, only because you told me about it.
Thanks, Danielle. So these are groups that are, if not worse than ISIS, and they're craftier. And we have to look at, the fact that the Syrian regime has killed over 250,000 people. ISIS has only killed up to 8,000. So while we're all focused on I liken ISIS to the guy in the bar that windmill punches everyone. He's eventually going to get overpowered, and I'm confident that ISIS will go away. But what happens after that is important, because if we allow, and this is where Canada comes in, if Canada actually believes in standing up for human rights, and yet we don't want to address the issue of a dictatorship that's killing 250,000 people, but yet we're concerned about this group that's, brutal, but not as bad as, where are our priorities as a nation? So it's, Geneva, the talks are quite important because obviously Canada's involved in it. And that's quite a difficult choice to do, and especially when we've got our own allies, like Turkey in NATO, not wanting to be a part of, not allowing proper talks to happen. Because there's a time and place for diplomacy, and there's a time and place for military intervention, and both are valuable assets to solving this conflict. So it's why I don't see this being solved in 5 years. 5 years will still be either in there, hopefully.
Where do you see it, how many years?
Well, hopefully if people, and that's the thing, there's 3 aspects to this war, and there's a militaristic aspect, an ideological aspect, and a societal aspect. And we need to make sure we're addressing all 3 of them. And all 3 of those take a very long time. So we can absolutely destroy ISIS, and we can make sure all these other Islamist groups are taken care of, but we need to make sure that we don't have power vacuums, and that involves troops staying in Syria and Iraq for, if not decades. The American troops didn't leave Japan for 30 years, and they're still in Korea. And it goes to show, the fact that, we left Iraq, and I'm not saying the West, we left Iraq way too early. That's what caused ISIS. We need to make sure that we're staying there for the long haul. So it's tough. So I think 10 years, maybe. So
Get some troops back over there?
I do, and that's such a tricky question, and everyone's divided on that, but I think it's valuable to have, we can't win war with airstrikes. And the Kurds have told, they're already doing far more than they should be able to do. So we need to make sure that our allies, like Turkey and Jordan and Saudi Arabia, we can't go back into the Middle East just by ourselves, because it will look like, once again, a Western invasion of a Middle Eastern country. We need to make sure we're putting not only Syrians and Iraqis in the forefront, saying these are Iraqis and Syrians fighting for their country, along with other Arab and Muslim countries being part of the solution, and that we're there to support. So we can't lead the charge in that sense, but what we can do is, this is where the refugee crisis comes in. We can lead the charge, and I think Canada should be accepting at least 5 times as many refugees, because there's, thank you. Because I think that's, we need to know where it's applicable to be active, and as much as I would love for the West to go into Syria, and
They're not very enthused with the conditions that they're finding here, stay in a hotel,
would you rather stay in a crappy Super 8 in Saskatoon or get barrel bombed?
Well, yeah.
I read in the news, apparently they want to go back to
but that's absolutely their right. So the big thing that I talk about is that people should have the right to self-determinate. That's the big thing we need to make sure, that if they come here and they're like, fuck Saskatoon, which really, then by all means, and we need to look at, if I was fleeing Canada and I don't know, I'd flip, I was a refugee and I went to, South Dakota, I want to go home. And
Yeah.
Syrians in
You got a
Iraq,
cot on the ground. This is
Yeah.
there you go. You get $5 a day. Have a hamburger.
right? But we need to make sure that we're allowing people the human right to make their own decisions. And if people want to go back, absolutely, we should let them go back. And we shouldn't judge them based on that, because as Canadians, when was the last time we got barrel bombed? So, you know, it's this understanding that we can't be too critical, but we need to make sure we're there to support. And if people don't like Saskatoon, they can leave. Yeah.
What do you think of Justin Trudeau?
Any questions from the audience?
Well, I'll be staying after the show if anyone wants to talk with me. That's
I'll
cool.
have a statement for you later.
Okay, cool. I like statements. Justin Trudeau. Interesting, because I voted Liberal, and I disagree with some of their foreign policy.
I still love you, Gavin. We blew
Sorry.
blue, but
Even though you voted Liberal.
Sorry. But I disagreed with their foreign policy. I think that, you know, I liken how we're treating this crisis to if I cut your arm off, and I'm sorry, I won't, and you just profusely are bleeding everywhere, and I was more concerned about mopping the floor up. That's what our foreign policy is right now. We need to make sure we're addressing the root cause, as well as I'm sure we can clean the floor up. Like, the refugee crisis is Syria bleeding out. We need to take an active role in being part of, like, fixing your chopped off arm. So Justin Trudeau's in a tricky position where he made election promises, okay, but he still hasn't backed himself into a corner. So I feel that if the Liberal government is serious about human rights, is serious about caring about people, that when the call comes out, and hopefully it'll be an Iraqi government saying, hey, we need help, so the Mosul campaign, hopefully they'll start the last ISIS-held city. Canada should be there. Canada should say, hey, you know what, our allies in Iraq have requested help, we should be there. When it comes to Syria, we need to make sure that if a request from a coalition of Arab and Western states and European states wants to intervene in Syria, we need to be there. We need to be there in a way that we're being active in the solution. And just only caring about one part of it, you're setting up the rest to fail. So he's in a tricky spot, and I don't envy his position. But the thing he has to realize, he is a wartime prime minister. We are at war. And it's the thing that we're not really wanting to admit yet. But there's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong in saying, hey, there's a problem, we should fix it. But we need to, like I said, we need to make sure that we're putting the rights of Iraqis and Syrians and what they want with their country first, rather than our visions of what Iraq or Syria should be like.
stop the bleeding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop the bleeding.
Yeah. Stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding.